Hi, I'm astrologer Penny Dix, and welcome to my much awaited overview for the astrological energies we can expect to navigate in 2026. Well, what's 2026 going to bring for us? Because you've probably heard myself, you've probably heard other astrologers talking about how 2026 in many ways is a pivotal year in the way we progress forward, mostly because of the movements of the big outer planets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the major and more unusual astrological aspects of 2026 and try and give you the bullet points, the headlines, and you may want to make a note of certain things, but you know, I find it's actually better if you just let it move into you and see how your general feeling is at the end of it, because you won't remember all the dates and all the aspects and all the transits. I certainly won't. And I think it's more about feeling the frequency and the essence of the energy of the year we're going to move into, because there's a lot about this forthcoming year that is the culmination of what's been building up and unfolding probably since 2020 in many ways. And in 2025, we've really been able to see how you could say the planets are jostling for their new prime positions to exert their frequency on the energy of the particular constellation or star sign, zodiac sign that they are now living in, inhabiting. So I think, yes, I think 2026 is an astrologically loaded year. But you know, as with all of these energies, it's what we choose to do with them. Because for many people, depending on your chart, this can be a year of enormous growth and enormous change. And what we have to do, though, is actually take action, because we cannot expect these things to manifest in the positive energies that they can manifest if we don't take some sort of action. The other thing which I think is also important to draw our attention to is that if we choose to not take any action at all, then certain transits and astrological energies will still affect us, but we don't have the same control over it. It happens to us and pushes us to make changes we're perhaps not prepared for and grow. So the beauty of astrology and understanding the headlines, for instance, of your own chart and of what's happening in 2026 is that it gives us some position of having that oversight. We can see the bigger picture with these energies and see how best to use them. So what are the major and unusual astrological aspects of 2026? Well, before I get to that, I want to tell you how to find and when you'll be able to find your individual zodiac signs, because I will be doing all your zodiac signs will be recorded separately, and they will be uploaded as and when through this month of December I have time to do them. So they are not as yet and won't be time linked or time stamped in this video, but once they are up, I will keep adding them to the description box. So it'll say Aries, and here's the link, and Taurus, and here's the link. And that, I think, is going to be the easiest way to do it. So by the end, or hopefully by Christmas, I will have all 12 zodiac signs up on my channel. So let's have a look. Let's look at the unusual astrological aspects which stand out for their rarity, their collective impact, and their energetic intensity. Well, I think where I'll start with is Uranus, our planet of electricity, of change, of the unexpected, of surprise, of technology, of eruptions and disruptions, rebellion and freedoms that are, maybe one could argue, much needed in the way society is heading at the moment. Now it's in Taurus, it's been retrograde in Taurus, and it stays retrograde in Taurus until the 4th of February. And at that point, and all this time, it's been hovering at 28, 29 degrees of Taurus. And as well as that, it's been conjunct the fixed star Algol. Now this is significant because Algol represents beheading or losing one's head or losing one's position as a leader. It is quite important to mention this because it may well be that between now and April the 26th, when Uranus will move into Gemini and not return to Taurus, we may well see leaders unexpectedly, or people in positions of authority unexpectedly losing their position. That is quite a probability. And just to warn you that you may hear my cats, that was George just now, scratching and running around and playing whilst I record this. It just goes with the territory. So hopefully they will settle down, but whenever I start doing videos, they always do this. Anyway, Uranus is unpredictability. So that is why we can't really predict what leaders may topple from power, or it could be people in government positions or in charge of large corporations. And remember, Taurus, where Uranus is money. So will we see people who are directly connected with economy lose their role? So these are the kind of things we can expect. And the reason why it's probably more likely that it's going to happen in either January or February, even March, is because Uranus will be in Taurus at really the anaretic degree. And this is its last visit to Taurus for, let me think, 84 years. So it will leave with a flourish. It will leave with intent. And it will leave with impact. We will have to see how that unfolds. Now, the other thing that we have to be mindful or aware of with Uranus over the next year is that Uranus in the early degrees of Gemini, because it moves into Gemini on April the 26th. Now, this is going to be a significant shift in how we experience technology and communication, because Uranus in Gemini, which is a sign about communication and thought and ideas, it's also an air sign, and Uranus has the quality of air, and it rules Aquarius, where Pluto is. So we are going to start seeing the beginnings of huge shifts and changes and unexpected developments scientifically within the realms of technology. But I think we're already aware of that, and that is also being backed up by Pluto in Aquarius, because Pluto, of course, is the planet of endings and beginnings, of transformation. Pluto was the god of the underworld, the god of hell, and he can really turn things upside down also. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is now, through 2026, really establishing himself in Aquarius. And he will go as far as, I think, 5 or 6 degrees of Aquarius. So if you have a natal planet like your sun, your moon in particular, or ascendant or descendant at any of those degrees between 1 and 5 or 6 degrees, you're going to notice Pluto affecting you this year. Now, the other interesting thing between Uranus and Pluto is they're going to have an on and off trine from Gemini to Aquarius, and that's going to be more or less exact in July and November. And this, we're actually going to see multiple exact hits between what we started with in 2025, and it's going to be active all through 2026, and it's also going to move also forwards into 2027. What can we expect from this Uranus-Pluto trine? We have 2 outer planets, big planets of significant change, and they're both in air signs, thought, ideas, and they are harmonizing. So they are on the same frequency, and they will be working in tandem to revolutionize developments in communication, in AI, in transport, even down to our own human consciousness. What, I wonder, are we going to see unfold with regard to AI and human consciousness? Will there be developed some, maybe it already has, I don't know, an interface of human consciousness that is able to connect in to AI and work with it in harmony? Oh, the cats are having fun. Can you hear them? Isn't that great? I do apologise, especially if you've only just come here for the first time, but it just goes with the territory with my channel. I'm terribly sorry. So this sign of Uranus trining Pluto is one of the most progressive aspects of our century, because it doesn't happen very often, because we haven't had it really going on since, well, there was a Uranus-Pluto conjunction in the 1960s, but this is much more constructive. So I think we're going to see a collective mental upgrade. So that's what I want to give you the headlines about Uranus and Pluto. And obviously through the year, I will come and look at these transits more deeply in my midweek Astro Witters and my Wittering Sundays, we could call them. And I think it's important next to look at the much talked about Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries at 0 degrees, which is going to be exact on the 20th of March. Now, this transit has been basically affecting us and all the areas of life that it can affect, namely at quite a subliminal level for really a lot of 2025. Let's just think about the essence of what this is about. Saturn is rigid, structured. Saturn is about stability and security. Saturn is about rules. Saturn is also about timing. Now, Neptune, you could actually say, is almost the complete opposite. You can't get hold of it. It's numinous, it's nebulous. It's our imagination. It's our dreams. It's our psychic and intuitive abilities. It's our sense of where we can tune into these higher frequencies of collective consciousness. Now, meeting as they are at the 0 point of Aries is hugely significant because it's the first degree of the whole zodiac. Hence, this is the start of a new, basically, Saturn takes, Saturn takes about 29 years approximately to go around the zodiac. So Saturn won't be back to 0 degrees of Aries for another 29, 30 years. And with Neptune there as well, and Neptune, remember, takes a lot longer to go round. But with both Saturn and Neptune at this point, it's as if they are heralding in a new age. I think what we are going to see and what has already been unfolding, because as I've hinted at before, I think February the 20th, when they're actually exact, that day will most probably come and go without much significant things happening. I could be wrong. I mean, something significant could happen on the 20th for everyone or for individuals. But basically, this is about a trend of energies, a building of frequencies that has been building up really over the past year. And it's about the collapse of illusions. It's about the collapse and the dissolution of old regimes and structures. It's about rewriting our spiritual and collective identity. We will see a new world order emerging as the old ways will not work anymore. So it really is bringing endings and beginnings. It's a huge karmic reset. Now, just to take your attention to the year 1989 to give you a sense of the kind of experience we can have of Saturn and Neptune conjunct. They were both conjunct in 1989 in Capricorn, which of course is about structure and governmental ways of doing things. We saw the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Soviet Union. So I give you that to show that we are actually heading towards a major world era shift. This is about a new spiritual identity. Now, I wonder whether, because we have so much more access through social media and AI to everything that is going on everywhere, and we can all assess and make our own judgments about things. And I think collectively some people are working towards really trying to sense the truth and where we get the true information rather than distorted, biased, conspiracy theorizing. They all may have their own values, but the important thing about this Saturn-Neptune is that I think collectively we may well see governments and regimes collapse. We may well at last see changes in governments such as the Soviet Union. That may come next year in 2026. And we may see changes in other parts of the world. Now, I suspect that we will also see this major shift in we are not as a collective going to take any of the BS anymore. We're seeing through. We're seeing the truth. On an individual level and how this manifests in your own life, it can be a major awakening, a real aha, and noticing things in a very different way. And maybe letting go and dissolving old beliefs that you've had for many, many years could just disappear, dissipate. The other thing that Neptune can bring up is that we get more information coming out about viruses and pandemic stuff, maybe referring back to what happened in 2020. What I think could come out through this transit is the truth, because I think most people are on the same page in recognizing that we never really got to the bottom of it. There's theories, there's this, there's that, but we don't really know. So I wonder whether the Saturn Neptune will finally give us some answers. So let's think about how this affects us personally. If you have a strong ego, I think you'll find it dissolving as you endeavor to become much more in touch and on the same frequency as the collective consciousness. We can all achieve a spiritual maturity through this transit. The truth does come out at this time, and the illusions dissolve. So I think we're going to see big collective events. We could see revolutions, revelations, changes of government, changes of leadership. That all links in with that Uranus at the anaretic degree of Taurus. So all of that is quite possible. So let's move on to some of the other aspects we've got building. We've also got a Saturn sextile Pluto transit, which takes place during March, July, and November. And this will stabilize more some of the more disruptive Pluto in Aquarius energies and some of the disruptive energies we will get from the fallout from the Saturn Pluto. Because this is about building structures for the future, because Aquarius is the future. And Aries, where Saturn is the first sign of the zodiac. So it's about looking to the future. So we will see much more grounded transformation with this sextile, which is on and off through 2026. We'll see practical progress, and there'll be strategic, disciplined innovation. Now, Neptune will also sextile Pluto, but this is, because Neptune moves so slowly, this is an unusual aspect to have. And what this energy will do is, in a sense, create a background frequency in consciousness. So if you think of Neptune, intuition, psychic abilities, this is like whole generations. Children born this year are going to have the most extraordinary energies going on in their birth charts. They're going to be the pioneers of their generations in times to come. And this Neptune sextile Pluto is really going to bring in, I think, also some deep healing. And as I was saying earlier about this interface of human consciousness with AI, I think we're going to see consciousness technology and a real shift in how humankind views spirituality. So that one of the major losers in the Saturn-Neptune conjunction could actually be established religions. I think there'll be a surge towards it, as if people are looking for something to get hold of. And then they'll think, hang on a minute, I don't need to do this in a church or a mosque or a synagogue. I actually am aware that I have a connection with the all of the all, with the divine intelligence. I can have that connection and those conversations anywhere. I think there'll be more of a developing of one's own individual spirituality and live and let live. But there may be a little bit of disruption and conflict before we get there, because as we've seen in the United States of America, as they move towards the more evangelical kind of way of thinking and the sort of far-right Christian values, there's going to be this pendulum swinging massively back and forwards in many countries this year. And the fallout is not really going to be fully clear. We're not going to have the clarity of that, possibly for another 15 or 20 years or longer. So let's see what else is going on, because I actually want to talk about, because Jupiter in Cancer is going to be trining both Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And Jupiter, it's a lovely harmonious trine when it links up with Saturn from Cancer to Neptune. And this will bring stability, expansion, spiritual expansion, taking on that theme that I was talking about, and give us a sense of foundations for long-term security. I think there will be, this is where the emotional and the spiritual world can feel more brought into the home. Because remember, Jupiter is in Cancer. And Jupiter actually moves into Leo in 2026. And it goes in June, July 2026. And I'll come to that in a minute, because there's a big opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Let me just go back, because I want to also talk about, excuse me, Chiron, our wounded healer. Now, I'm really curious because, and I must do some more research, because Stefan Burns, who you've often heard me talk about, the geophysicist, refers to Chiron actually as a comet, and says it actually, as an asteroid, which it isn't actually an asteroid, it's a cosmic object, but it actually does display behavior, or comet-like behavior, which I just found quite interesting, because it adds a new energy or energetic frequency to the whole sense of what Chiron is about, in that healing and healing of our traumas and our wounds. Now, it's entering Taurus in June and July 2026. And we have to think of what Taurus represents, because Taurus is about security, it's about our body, our physicality, it's about money, self-value. So this is like healing those wounds of self-worth. So it is going to be making some aspects. It's going to sextile Uranus. It's trined Jupiter. That will come up again. when Jupiter moves into Leo. So there is going to be some energy coming up, which I will talk about as the year goes on. Now, it adds and underlines the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, in that it brings in the huge emotional and psychological turning point that humanity is reaching. Now, let's come on to Jupiter in Leo opposing Pluto. This is big. This is a big one. And we will talk about it a lot. You've got to think of these energies because Jupiter's going to be in Leo, fire sign. Okay, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so it's a fire planet. But Jupiter expands everything it touches. Sometimes it can expand it for the negative. And it's an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. They're both fixed in fixed signs. Leo is fixed and Aquarius is fixed. Pluto, of course, is about transformation, beginnings, endings. June, July could be really, really interesting. That's a lovely word, isn't it? Interesting months. This could see the culmination and the results coming in of anything we may have been initiating, planning throughout even 2025. We will start to see the fruits of our labours by June, July 2026. Now, what are some of the themes of Jupiter opposite Pluto? We could see power struggles in leadership. We can see really intense creative breakthroughs, which may be linked in with artificial intelligence. We may see some dramatic collective events. There may be some wonderful, fundraising events and lovely, Glastonbury festivals and things like that bring huge kind of transformation for the collective. For anyone who has Leo in their chart, like I have a Leo ascendant, or if you've got a Leo sun or a Leo moon, we've got to be mindful we don't let our egos get a little bit too out of control, because we'll be out there just wanting to be heard and performing away like crazy. So it really will amplify the essence of charisma and performance. And of course, it's going to be in Leo for nearly a year, a couple of years. I always get it wrong. Something like that, anyway. That's really helpful, isn't it? And I'm an astrologer. So I think also what it could bring in is, because Pluto is such a powerful leadership sign, and Leo can be a sign of leadership, Jupiter could sort of bring in the energy of people with much more vision, creative leaders that have vision. I want to say younger leaders, people that get where the world is going, and not the old boy network, the old schoolboy network. And that I really do feel that as 2026 progresses, that archaic way of running the planet will dissolve. And we're going to start seeing that in a more concrete sense as soon as February 2026. Now, the exact opposition of Pluto and Jupiter is on the 20th of July. And, July 26 could really mark, for many people, the start of a new chapter in your life. And, I think you've got to be careful you don't let this energy let you get out of control, because expansion of power meets expansion of power. So, Jupiter, growth, belief, abundance, amplification. Pluto, power, transformation, intensity, truth. This is going to create major turning points, personally and collectively. It's a 13-year cycle. And being the Leo-Aquarius axis, especially because Pluto's in there, will make it especially potent. So maybe just in one sentence for this rather important transit, Jupiter in Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius is a powerful expansion of personal authenticity, creative courage, confronting you with the truth of who you are meant to become and the power you must claim to get there. I like that. So let's see, at this point, let's just have a sense of the collective themes of 2026, because first of all, I want to say that the first half of the year, and namely January, February, March, April, May, and January, February, March, April being the significant months, are going to be very busy astrologically. In April, we will have a stellium of planets in Aries. So that's forceful, new beginning energy that's going to come in there. We've also got nodal shifts, but I'll come to that in a minute. But I think also it's about recognizing that with that move of Jupiter into Leo in the middle of the year, so that by June, July, I think it's as if we can all expect to be where we're meant to be for the rest of 2026, if that makes sense. And we will have a better sense of the direction that we're all going in, individually, hopefully, collectively. And then the second half of 2026 will not be quite as perhaps dramatically filled with transits like we've got in the first half of the year, but nevertheless, it will still make itself felt, and there will be transits and sort of astrological impact that will really have an effect. So let's have a look at the collective themes. I think we're going to see breakthroughs in technology, as I've said. There'll be more public debates about power, privacy, and freedom. I think freedom of speech. I think wokeism might find it gets quite widely challenged. I suspect that people are, or the collective are, fed up with being told what they can and they can't say, whether it's on social media. There's a wonderful British comedian. She's very far right, and I have to say I don't agree with everything she says. Her name's Katie Hopkins, and some of you may have seen her on YouTube. And anyway, she talks about the word police, and that we're not allowed to say hurty words on things like YouTube, otherwise we'll go to prison. And I think things like that are going to shift and change, because there is a ridiculousness to it all that we have got to be able to feel. It's not about going round being insulting, but it's about having freedom to be able to discuss things. And I was thinking about if the police have to ask you to describe someone you've seen running from a crime scene, what are you allowed to say? Because supposing the person has a different skin colour, what are you allowed to say without the police saying, oh, you can't say that, right, in handcuffs, and you're off to prison? So, it's like, I don't know, it was a person. I don't know what colour they were. I'm not allowed to say it. So do you see what I mean? There's a total craziness about it. Anyway, if you want to have a laugh at any time, go and watch Katie Hopkins on YouTube. Very, very funny. Anyway, let's carry on with the collective themes of 2026. I think we'll see shifts in leadership and governments. I think we could see shifts in political structures in big, important countries. And like I was just saying, I think there will be these cultural battles around individuality and freedom of speech. There will be this sense of people versus the system. But we will see breakthroughs in science, space, networks, or innovation. And I think that will also be, I think the space aspect is very important, because that in many ways is coming from what we will unfold as Uranus continues through Gemini, trining Pluto in Aquarius. I think we're going to become, and I said this recently in another video, but I think we're going to become much more aware, and that space weather is going to be talked about much more freely, even to the extent we'll start to get it on mainstream news, because we are going to be almost forced to recognize that the geomagnetic spurts or outbursts that come from the sun and the solar flares affect not just our satellites, they affect our technology. And as recently, at the time of recording this, it's grounded certain Airbuses, the 320s, because of a geomagnetic storm, which the energy affected microchips in the programs. And so these planes had to be grounded till it could be fixed. We are going to have to accept that. And we're going to have to accept that we are going to get interstellar object visitors like 3i Atlas, because they've been coming and going for hundreds and thousands of years. We haven't had the technology or the telescopes to see them. But now we're getting much more. We're looking out there. This is so Aquarius. This is so Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. We're going to be looking out there. We're going to be looking to see what's happening out there. And I think that I'd love to say that we will have definitive proof of life in some form existing somewhere off planet. And maybe that will come. But we've got to have the technology to be able to identify it first. I don't think it's going to be a spaceship landing. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So that's another side of it. So I think we're going to see collective activism this year. I think we're going to see more confrontative behavior from crowds. There'll be rising tensions as we push collectively for breakthroughs, and more of a sense of decentralized communities will be growing in power. As I said, the old ways will not cut it anymore. Let's just have a look now quickly at the nodal axis shifts, because the north node of the moon is going to move into Aquarius, and the south node will move into Leo. And this will happen in the middle of 2026. Now, we've got 4 eclipses this year. Now, the one in February is very important. It's an annular solar eclipse on February the 17th. It's in Aquarius at 28 degrees. And this is, I don't think it's visible, it's not visible in most of the world. I think it's down in the south, in Antarctica, that it'll be visible as visible as a solar eclipse. But it's a powerful one, and it's in Aquarius, which is interesting, but it's right at the end of Aquarius. So I don't know what it's aspecting, but I will talk about it nearer the time. But we have 4 eclipses. Now, March the 3rd then brings another total lunar eclipse, and that's in Virgo, and that's at 12 degrees and 51 minutes. Now, if you think about the energy of this, we've got this solar eclipse on February the 17th. And then we have on the 20th, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And then on March the 3rd, a total lunar eclipse. Really, really pay attention to what's going on out there and in your own lives, January, especially February and March. And that, you know, if you want to make big changes in 2026, sow the seeds, put the roots down, because the energies are going to help you. They're going to just lift you up and move you. And the thing is, if we don't do it willingly, the universe will think, or the divine mind will say, yeah, I don't need you there. I've got to have you over there. And you suddenly get pushed somewhere else, or something happens to make you look at things. And so you don't have the same, you're not in charge of your destiny in the same way. And that's the beauty of astrology. It gives you an ability to have some kind of sense of how to work with the energies to enhance your life. Let's move on to the next eclipse, which is a total solar eclipse on August the 12th. And that's at 20 degrees of Leo. And I believe it's visible in Europe. That will be super exciting. And I think its total, I think its line is over northern Spain. But obviously nearer the time, I will look at all these things. And then on August the 28th, we have a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces at 4 degrees. Now, what's interesting, if you think about it, is that with the nodal shift, and I'll come to just the meaning of that in a minute, but we've got this overlapping of Virgo Pisces and Aquarius Leo. And really, from Virgo and Pisces, we're moving into Aquarius, which is the sign of the future. So this is just really exciting that we've got that North Node in Aquarius, our destiny, where we are headed towards. And that South Node, interestingly, in Leo, which is about leadership, which is really about the I, the me, the, top of the government, top of the tree. That's going to be in the past. It will change, and we will start to see it shift most definitely, because the North Node is emphasizing the collective consciousness. And it's about detaching ourselves from being egocentric. The South Node, you could say, in Leo is about letting go of old patterns around ego-driven behavior, pride, and wanting to be in the spotlight. This is a year about being much more aware of the collective and how we are interconnected with everybody. So those are the eclipses, and as I just go through my notes, I want to see if there's anything I've missed, because yes, Venus, that's right. Did I write that down yet? Venus is going to go retrograde, and Venus goes retrograde, and I've got it written down somewhere. Venus goes retrograde anyway, but it's only for about 6 weeks, and it goes retrograde in the beginning of October, and then it's in Scorpio and Libra, and then it goes direct again the second week, or the end of the second week of November. So we don't often have, it only happens about every 2 or 3 years. And then actually Mars is going to go retrograde at the beginning of 2027, but we don't need to worry about that yet. So let me just quickly skim through. So let's see. Massive spiritual renewal, technological and societal revolution, You know, the spiritual renewal is the Neptune, Saturn, and the nodes. Technological and societal revolution, Pluto in Aquarius, and the Uranus trines. Jupiter in Cancer, the trines from that, emotional healing and reconnection. And creative and leadership explosions will be Jupiter in Leo. Intense power patterns, Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars, Pluto, when that makes aspects. And then the eclipses will bring about karmic clearing and rebirth, and that'll be the eclipses. And also, of course, I think the karmic clearing and rebirth will be that Saturn, Neptune. But you know, it really is a threshold year. And I think it's like a bridge between dissolving the old world and emerging into the new one. So, a very exciting and potentially life-changing year for all of us, if we choose it. So remember, I am going to be doing all your individual zodiac signs. You might not be watching this video until January, when I've actually uploaded all the zodiac signs, because at the point of recording these at the beginning of December, I've not yet recorded the individual zodiac signs, but they will all be done over the next 3 weeks or so. And then I will put their link in the description box of the video so that you can find them quite easily. And on that note, is there anything else that I want to say? I think this year can be everything and more than we want it to be. We always have choice. We can choose to just do nothing with any of the energies, but watch out, because they may have a different idea and force you into situations or changes that you're not prepared for. So be aware of that. Try and be in command of understanding the energies in your own chart so that you can make intelligent, thought-based decisions on the way forward you want to go and how you want to handle those energies. Remember, if you want to have a personal, in-depth look at your transits for 2026, you can email me at penny@pennydix.com via my website, and we can make an appointment for sometime in the new year. And I just want to also say thank you so much to everybody who has supported me over the last 5 years of building and growing this channel. And I value each and every one of you, and I do my best to read all your comments. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you commenting, liking, subscribing. If you are new here today, I would love it if you'd subscribe to my channel. And if you're seeing this at the beginning of December, I'm afraid your zodiac sign isn't ready yet, but they will be. So on that note, I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me. I really wish you a very happy 2026. And let's wait and see what happens. Okay. Thanks for joining me, and bye for now. Bye.